few times.
What was your experience like?
It was how do you say? It's so nice that they are there.
Yeah.
It was like not a walking distance from anywhere, so you had to drive there. I remember. But then once you are there, it's like nicely outfitted place as like a Go club, and then it's so nice that it's only for Go, not like most Go clubs they meet in like pubs, and then they have like once a week they have some stacked Go board on the corner, and then they would use it and then they would put it back. But instead, like in the Seattle Go Center, everything is always nicely placed, and then you can go there. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So today we have with us Hajin Lee, professional, four-dan professional Go player, and she's with us today at the San Francisco Go Club in San Francisco, California. I am Matt Barkas, the Vice President of the San Francisco Go Club, and with us today is Mish, who's the President of the Go Club. And without further ado, Hajin, would you mind giving us a little introduction about yourself and maybe where you started out in the Go world?
Sure, yes. Nice to meet you. My name is Hajin Lee. I grew up in South Korea. I started Go when I was 5 years old, and people thought I had some talent, so I got seriously into Go. And both of my parents were hobby players also, so that also helped. And when I was 9 years old, I left my family to move into my Go master's house to live with him and train really intensely. And I became a professional player at 16, and then I was an active tournament player. I won a minor tournament in Korea, and I was in the national the women's team that would go into the international tournaments representing South Korea. And then after 5 years, I decided I wanted to explore the world a little because I only knew about Go. So I decided to go to university, pursue a bachelor's degree. I studied finance. And then after that, I worked for the International Go Federation. Then I had an MBA, and then I got married. I moved to the US. And after that, I somehow became a software engineer. So currently, I'm working as an engineer now.
Oh, that's cool. Where do you work?
At Dun and Bradstreet. It's a very old American company that works with the business data and business analytics and B2B kind of tools.
Okay, cool. When did you start learning software engineering? How old were you?
So I started, so it's kind of a long story, but then after my MBA, we moved to Silicon Valley, and then I wanted to become a product manager. So I did an internship as a product manager intern for a tech startup. And during my internship, I learned that you have a better chance of succeeding as a product manager if you have some technical background. So that's when I started learning to program. I learned Python and then some basics, for loops and such. And then I really got into it. It was so fun. I would do it all day. And then I started writing my own Go server, writing Go rules in Python. And then after that experience, I started applying for jobs in both associate product manager and junior developer. And then I got the junior developer offer first, so I took it.
Nice. Congratulations. That's an interesting transition. And
yeah.
I guess, what was your favorite part about being a professional Go player, and do you have any regrets about leaving Go behind and at least the professional, playing professionally?
Yeah, so it's a little funny, but I became a pro player at 16, and it's still a very young age. But in Korea, if you're a professional player, you get certain respect from all age Go fans. So that felt really cool. That was some part that I really enjoyed. And maybe another part was that you are kind of free. It's like you have a career, but then everything is up to you. You can sleep in, and then you can train whenever you want, and then you just need to go to the tournament. So that kind of the freedom is also kind of very nice part of being a professional player. But there was also downside. I think the downside to me was that it's really hard whenever you lose. It feels like so sad and then like so depressed, and I think some people are better at handling that kind of the sadness after losing the game. I think on me it was a little bit harder, and I think that's why I really enjoyed kind of my classes in the university, because at universities I knew as long as I put the work, I knew I could get A+. And then that was kind of the predictability I had. Whereas in Go, like you can do your best, put all you have, and then still lose, and then that's very sad.
Got it.
And then I guess with that, like who would you say was your biggest rival at the time when you were playing professionally?
Yeah, so that's a difficult question, because there were many strong Go players. Oh, so first of all, I usually consider the only other like female players as rivals, rather than the men, because they were so much stronger than us. And among the female players, there were quite a few strong players, and I didn't have anyone like specifically as my rival. I considered all of them as my rival.
Do you have a favorite match that you played?
Yeah, I think my favorite match is the one that I defeated Rui Naiwei. She's a legend. She was always my hero. And then when I won that game, it was on the like Baduk TV studio, because it was like the TV tournament. And then like I just couldn't believe it long after I won that game.
It must have been really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Mitch? Otherwise I can...
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, cool. And I guess with like learning or playing Go throughout your career, like what do you think have been some life lessons that are worth sharing with everyone?
Yes. I think that there are many lessons you can learn, but I think the best lesson I took away from all the training is that ultimately your skills and knowledge matters more than anything else. In that, like in Go, when you're training, there are like tournaments and the in-state games, and then it's so easy to be focused on your next game and the next tournament, whether you will win or lose on that like next match. But then ultimately, if you are strong enough, you will be winning more times. So when you're training Go, like you are not training to win the next game, you are training to become a better player, like get stronger at it. So that was kind of the attitude I took to the university when I became a student, that I wasn't studying to do better at the midterm or final. I was studying to get this knowledge and the skills, so that if I have that skills, then like whatever is like on the path, I can just do well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice.
And then do you have any, I guess, advice for people that are just starting out in their pursuit of Go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the best advice is to do lots of Chumego, the Go problems. That was actually my favorite part of Go training. I always wanted to do more Chumego. And what I noticed from the weaker players is that they usually make a mistake in something they know or they would have seen, like if they like really paid attention. But then it's very easy to make these mistakes, and what can prevent these mistakes is a kind of repeated training. Like even if you know this like Tetsuji or this shape, it's very easy to miss it in the real game unless you have practiced it like 1,000 times.
Got it. And then what about for players who have maybe been playing a long time and starting to like feel burnt out? What suggestions would you have for them?
I guess in my case, I guess I walked away from the tournament. No, but maybe take a little break. I think you can feel burnt out when you're losing many games like in a row, or sometimes you kind of suddenly lose interest. Then maybe it could be an option to take a little break and then come back, or maybe do a Chumago that's slightly easier than your level, that can be a little bit more fun, and then it's still helpful even though it feels too easy, because that repeated practice, it can be also handy in like Byomi because you don't have much time to think.
And then, okay.
Can I ask you about how Go plays, what role does Go play in your life now that you're a retired
Yes.
professional?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm actually volunteering for both American Go Association and the North American Go Federation. I am currently an executive director at the North American Go Federation. So I've been actually organizing a lot of qualification tournaments for international tournaments. So there are international tournaments that would invite please nominate 2 female players for this world women's championship for North America. So I would do that, and then there is this Globis Cup, that's qualification tournament currently going on. And the Globis Cup is an international under 20 years old tournament in Japan, and they wanted to have 1 player from North America. So we invited about 10 strong under 20 years old players from US and Canada, because they actually said we would like either US or Canada. So we invited those, and then having a qualification tournament. So that has been my main work these days.
That's cool. Where do these qualification tournaments take place?
Online. These
Okay.
days, all of it is online, and then we have very strict video requirements.
Yeah.
These days, some players can become quite sensitive with the subject.
Yeah. And how about playing Go? Do you still play Go? And do you miss playing such strong players that you used to do so regularly in the past?
I think I have fun when I do play, but then I'm usually quite busy that I don't get to play very much. I do have a correspondence games going on with my dad and my mom, and with then my husband. So that's the usual games.
Gotcha.
What's your server of choice?
For the correspondence game, I use Padupop.
Awesome. And given your involvement with the North America Go Federation and American Go Association, what would you say the health of the Go community is at the moment in the U.S.?
Yeah, so with the pandemic, it has been very difficult to have in-person events, and in Go, it's so much. I guess it's very different and probably better for many people to have in-person games with their friends or local Go community, and that had been difficult. So I think there were some slowness in the Go community overall, but I think it is slowly coming back. I'm very happy to see this San Francisco Go Club. It's an amazing location, and you did a great job decorating this place. And then the US Go Congress is another kind of main event that many people looked forward to, and then last 2 years had been online. So that was probably a little bit of setback, but I'm hopeful that it will come back slowly. And I heard this year's Congress will probably be in person.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be in Colorado. Is that?
Yeah, it's this park, I heard.
Awesome. Yeah, and then I guess the pandemic's had a huge impact on Go, but before that there was AlphaGo, which was also caught the world's attention. And also, I'm curious to know your involvement with that project and how you think everything played out at the end and its impact on Go.
Yeah, so that AlphaGo event that was such an experience in my life. So I was working for the International Go Federation, and I still remember I was on a business trip in Switzerland because there was a International Federation of Sports Associations forum, and then they are usually in Switzerland. So I was there, and then I got a phone call from then the president of the British Go Association. And then he asked if I would be open to talk to someone who wants to sponsor a Go tournament. So I was like, sure, yeah, I would be very happy to. And then he said that, but to talk to this someone, you have to sign an NDA, which is like super unheard of, right? So I was like, okay. So I signed this form that they sent to me, and then I got a call from the DeepMind. And they said that they wanted to challenge they wanted to challenge a champion. And then they told me they had an AI. And then I was thinking, I really clearly remember thinking that, oh, she has no idea how strong these human champions are. Because at the time, even the strongest Go program needed at least like 3 handicap stones to the top level player. So I told her that it's probably too far away, and then she told me, oh, we actually defeated Fan Hui, and then Fan Hui is good player, but he is not close to the entry level professional players. So, but then I didn't want to tell her that, oh, but Fan Hui is not strong enough. It passed my mind, but I didn't want to say it. So I was like, oh, I see. That's really interesting. But that was interesting because even defeating Fan Hui was like a big achievement for computer Go at the time. So we had that initial conversation, and then she invited me to come to London to visit DeepMind and then talk more about it. And then they paid for my whole visit. So that was very easy conversation with my boss at the time. And then they asked me actually not to tell even my boss what was going on. So,
so you had to take a vacation?
No, I told him that there is this company that, and then we were also working with the British Go Association all the time. So I told him that I'm going to have a meeting with the British Go Association, and then there is a company that want to sponsor the Go tournament. They don't want to be known yet. So I took that trip, and then we had some initial draft of what they wanted to do. And then I took that to my boss, and then my boss also had to sign an NDA before seeing the draft. It was really weird. But that's how it all kind of began, the preparation. And then for having Isedol, I actually met him in person for the first time. He also had to sign an NDA. So I called him and then asked him if I could see him, and then he probably thought it was strange that I wanted to see him, because even though we knew each other as professional player colleague, we never had one-on-one meeting before. So, but then he was okay with it, so we had a meeting, and then he had to sign an NDA, and then I told him that DeepMind has an AI and then wants to challenge him, and then he was a little bit shocked, but then he said he would be very curious to play, so he accepted the challenge. Yeah.
What was he like talking in person? I mean, what type of personality-wise was he enthusiastic at the time to go against AlphaGo, or?
You mean Isedol, right?
Yeah.
So I think he was he was curious, and then I'm sure, just like every other professional player, he had no doubt that he would win this match. But then I think we all wanted to see how close it came. We never imagined it would actually win. I think including himself.
Did you get a chance to play AlphaGo before the match?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
What was your first impression? How did you feel after playing AlphaGo?
So when I first played, it was so it's really funny. So when I So I played it with the like DeepMind engineers kind of with me. And then they were asking me, oh, what do you want to do at like a time limit? Like, should I put like 10 seconds or like 20 seconds? And then I was telling him, oh, I think I need at least 30 seconds. And then he says, oh, you have unlimited time. I meant just AlphaGo time.
Oh boy.
Yes. So I said I didn't realize that like 10 seconds would mean like AlphaGo would be weaker.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that doesn't sound fair. We can both have like 30 seconds.
That's nice of you.
Yeah. And then like we had a game. And then I think that was probably the version much weaker than what Isadora played. I had actually a close game. The engineer, I think he was like watching behind using the another monitor. And then he was telling me, I lost the game. And then he was telling me that, oh, Hajin, you were so close. If you just played this one, I think you could have won. And then like,
Wow.
yeah.
Did it dawn on you then that like, oh my God, this is actually real?
So I kind of insisted on playing this game before I organized the challenge match.
Right, to
because,
make sure.
Yeah, because I didn't want to make like kind of embarrassment.
Right.
And then when I lost, I knew it would at least like, not be embarrassing.
Right. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen the AlphaGo documentary, it's like, I think it's pretty fantastic. You can watch it on YouTube for free. But it's kind of interesting because so many people learn about Go through AlphaGo and then they start wanting to play. What has been your overall interpretation on how Go has been impacted by AlphaGo?
Right. So there were, I think, several kind of changes that came from the development of AI. I think the most prominent change is that that I feel every day is that the online game became very difficult to be fair without like lots of like requirements, because there is such a strong tool. Before this AI, like it's very difficult to have someone stronger than you if you are organizing a tournament for very strong players. So you wouldn't usually worry about any cheating. But then with the AI, it became like so easy to get help. So that was kind of the downside. But then on the other side, it became much easier to also get like coaching or training. You have this really strong tool that you can use to get better at it, and you don't have to be in Korea or China. You can be anywhere in the world with just a computer and a good GPU or CPU. So that, I think that's really bright side. And then another good thing I noticed is that in broadcasting, especially in Korea, China, when they broadcast the professional tournaments real time, they always have the AI analysis like right next to it, and then you can instantly see who is ahead. And that was something very difficult before, like you couldn't tell if black's winning or white's winning. And then I think that makes the spectating a little more fun.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's like the lines in watching football. You can see first down. And that
Yeah.
first.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to go into
Rapid fire.
rapid fire questions.
Some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So this is just to get your preference on a few, or find your preference on a few different items. So do you prefer to play on tables and chairs or floor and tatami?
Tables and chairs.
And do you like to play as black or white?
I prefer black.
Favorite stone material?
I guess I'm not sure what it's called in English. Like the shell.
Clamshells
Yeah.
and slate.
Yes.
So the traditional stones.
That's right.
Yeah.
And do you have an ideal stone size you like to play with?
The bigger, the better. I mean, it gets more expensive as it gets bigger.
And do you have like a favorite, like a preference for the board you play on or the bowls that you use?
No strong preference. Usually the traditional ones usually have like a nice shape and they feel nice as well.
Good. And then, what do you think is the best tournament time setting?
Oh, for it's, I have different answers whether it's for the chance to win or for kind of enjoying the game.
Let us know.
Yeah, so I had a better result when I was an active player with the shorter time limit games. But then I think it's kind of more enjoyable to play a long game and then really immerse yourself into it. So that the short game would be like 10 minutes main time and then some Byoyomi. And the long game would be like 3 hours each and then Byoyomi.
And who's your favorite player to watch at the moment?
Other than AlphaGo.
Wow, that's I guess that's an interesting question. I've never thought about it. I do sometimes watch like live tournaments that's going on, like if there's a Nongsim Cup and then like Korean players playing Chinese player, and then I would be curious who is winning. But I haven't thought about like specific player that I like to watch.
And I understand you're an avid reader, so what's your favorite Go book?
I think my favorite Go book was kind of the Chumego books that I served a lot. But then for reading, there were several books that I really enjoyed. Maybe one thing that comes to my mind right now is the Uching Nguyen book that was like, there were 3 books that were really thick. And then my Go master used to say that you have to study at least 10 times, so this is like the game records book. And then like each book was like really thick. And then like, I don't know the exact number, but each book probably had like 200 to 300 games. And then my master would say, you have to play like 10 times every game for all 3 books. And then I kind of treated that I only did the 3rd book. And then I probably did like 4 or 5 times, I didn't do 10 times. But then it was because the 3rd book was the later stage of his life. So people usually say that the last book has more like kind of the dense games. So that's kind of, that was a memorable training.
And do you have a favorite just general book that you like? It could be outside of Go.
Outside Go. I like to read, I guess I like to read kind of all kinds of stories, but then these days I've been mostly reading those like engineering technical books, so that's in my mind.
Nice. Yep.
But some of my favorite books in the past was like some classical books, like I loved reading Anna Karenina and Jane Eyre.
Awesome.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Hajin Lee. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Great.
So we'll now start our, Hajin will be playing 3 simultaneous games, and we'll move to that. So thank you.
All right.